My entitled sister had the nerve to call me a freeloader while she was squatting in the very house I bought. So I finally cut her off, and the move I made next completely flipped her world upside down, leaving her homeless, speechless, and furious. My name is Megan, I'm 34, a single mother to my remarkable 10-year-old son, Ethan. He's genuinely the only individual in this world I truly cherish. I work as a project manager in Austin, and I'm fortunate to earn a substantial income now, around $280,000 annually. However, the path to reaching this point was absolutely grueling. So, I suppose I should begin at the start. My family has consistently been, well, utterly dysfunctional to put it mildly. My parents invariably had a preferred child, and it certainly wasn't me. My younger sister Amber could do no wrong in their eyes. She was the gifted one, the extraordinary one, the one who deserved everything while I received nothing. I still recall that day with perfect clarity. I was 19, having just received my acceptance letter to UC Berkeley. I was incredibly ecstatic, the first person in our family to attend a prestigious institution. I rushed into the living room, waving that letter around, and my parents asked me to sit down, wearing these odd, serious expressions. "Megan, we need to discuss college," my father stated, not even meeting my gaze. I sat there, still thrilled, thinking perhaps they were going to surprise me with something for graduation or similar. Yes, I was that naive. "We've utilized your college fund for Amber," my mother announced, as if informing me we were having pizza for dinner. "She's been accepted into this exclusive arts program in New York. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity." I simply sat there utterly stunned. "You what? My entire college fund? All of it?" They nodded as if this were the most rational thing in the world. "You can secure student loans," my father remarked, "but this chance for Amber won't arise again." I was utterly fed up with their favoritism and the way they were manipulating me to fulfill Amber's aspirations. I decided I'd fare better alone. So that evening, I packed all my possessions into my dilapidated Honda Civic and departed. Not a soul came out to bid me farewell. I drove directly to Austin, sleeping in my car for the initial few nights until I secured a tiny apartment and the first of many undesirable jobs. For years, all I heard from my parents were updates about Amber. Amber's artwork was showcased in a student exhibit. Amber met this renowned artist. Amber, Amber, Amber. Not once did they inquire about my well-being, or if I was even alive. I held down 3 jobs while attending classes at community college. Mornings at a coffee shop, afternoons performing data entry, evenings waiting tables. Some nights I slept in the break room at work because I couldn't afford bus fare. I consumed leftover food from customers' plates when no one was observing. Yes, not proud of that, but try enduring hunger for 3 consecutive days and see what actions you take. Once I finally completed my degree, I secured an entry-level position at a technology startup and progressed through the ranks. It was there I met Ethan's father, Jason. He initially appeared to be a good person, intelligent, humorous, and he actually paid attention to me. We married after dating for a year, and Ethan arrived a year later. Then I discovered the text messages between Jason and his 22-year-old intern. Yes, that familiar narrative. I didn't even bother with the shouting and crying. I simply packed his belongings into garbage bags, placed them by the front door, and informed him he could depart on his own or I'd discard everything from our balcony. His choice. To his credit, he has never missed a child support payment and appears for Ethan's birthday and Christmas, and honestly, that's about all I require from him. So, for the past 8 years it has been just Ethan and me against the world. My son is truly remarkable. Intelligent, humorous, and kind. He's enrolled in the gifted program at school, plays soccer, and is captivated by constructing intricate Lego creations. Every night, I read to him before bed. Even though he can read perfectly well on his own now, it's our special ritual. I worked tirelessly, achieving promotion after promotion, and finally purchased a lovely 4-bedroom residence in a desirable school district last year. Life was actually quite good. I didn't require my family. I had forged my own life on my own terms. Then last month the phone call arrived that altered everything. It was just a typical Tuesday. I was concluding a Zoom meeting with clients when my phone vibrated with an unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something compelled me to. "Hello, Megan? It's your mother." My stomach plummeted. 15 years. It had been 15 agonizing years since I'd heard her voice. Not since that day I drove away from home with nothing but a suitcase and whatever cash I had saved. "Mom," I uttered, not even attempting to sound pleased about it, merely acknowledging the fact. "You need to come home. Your father's in the hospital." Her voice was trembling. "The family is in serious trouble." For a second I almost laughed. Family? What family? The one that pilfered my college fund to finance my sister's unrealistic aspirations? That family? What happened? I inquired, attempting to maintain a neutral tone even though my heart was pounding. "Your father suffered a heart attack. He's stable now, but..." She paused. "There's more. We're on the verge of losing the house. The bank is foreclosing in 2 weeks." And there it was, the true motive for the call. After 15 years of silence they required money. Of course they did. Why else would they ever contact me? I'm sorry to hear about Dad, I said, and strangely I genuinely meant it. But I don't see what this pertains to me. Please, Megan, just come home. We need to converse in person. I should have declined. I should have hung up. But something in her voice, genuine fear, perhaps actual desperation, affected me. Plus, there was this minuscule part of me that desired to witness their discomfort, to appear undeniably successful after they had discarded me. I'll consider it, I stated and ended the call. That evening, after putting Ethan to bed, I sat on my back porch gazing at the stars. Should I go? Should I ignore them? I texted my closest friend Tara, asking for her opinion. They only called because they want something, she replied immediately. You don't owe them. She was correct, but I kept contemplating. What if my dad passed away? Would I regret not seeing him one last time? And more importantly, could I forego the chance to demonstrate precisely what they forfeited when they chose Amber over me? The following morning, I made arrangements to work remotely for a few days, informed Ethan we were taking a brief trip, and packed our bags. I wasn't returning for them. I was returning for myself. The drive to San Antonio occupied about an hour and a half. Every mile closer caused my stomach to twist into tighter knots. Ethan was silent beside me, playing a game on his tablet. Mom, where exactly are we going? He finally inquired. We're going to meet your grandparents, I replied, the words feeling foreign in my mouth. I have grandparents? His eyes widened. You never discussed them before. That's when it truly struck me. My parents didn't even know Ethan existed. They had a grandson for 10 years and never once inquired about him. What kind of individuals do that? When we drew up to the house, I remained in the car for a solid minute, simply observing it. It appeared smaller than I remembered, dilapidated. The paint was peeling, the lawn was overgrown, and one of the shutters was hanging askew, a stark contrast to the pleasant home it was when I left. My mother opened the door before we even reached it. She looked significantly older. Gray hair, deep wrinkles around her eyes. For a moment, I felt a tiny bit of sympathy for her. Then her gaze shifted to Ethan, and her hand flew to her mouth. Oh my God, she whispered. My father appeared behind her, leaning heavily on a cane. He looked frail, his once broad shoulders now hunched, his eyes also fixed on Ethan. This is my son, Ethan, I stated, placing a protective hand on his shoulder. Ethan, these are your grandparents. And just like that, they transformed. Suddenly, they were all smiles and syrupy talk. My goodness, you've grown so large. Do you enjoy baseball? I used to coach. You look just like your mother when she was your age. It was like observing actors stepping into roles. The doting grandparents who had never sent so much as a birthday card or even inquired if I had children. I cut through the pretense rather quickly. Can we bypass this and discuss why I'm here? My mother's artificial smile vanished. She ushered us inside, and that's when I received the full account. Amber secured a substantial loan to launch her design studio, my father explained, his voice weak. The business failed. We mortgaged the house to assist her, and now the bank is taking it. They required $200,000 to salvage the house. My father looked me directly in the eye and stated, That's not a significant sum for you now, is it, Megan? The sheer nerve, as if I owed them anything, as if I hadn't struggled for years because of their decisions. Before I could respond, the front door swung open, and there she was, Amber, looking as if she had just stepped off a fashion magazine cover, designer attire, perfect hair, immaculate makeup. But her eyes were cold when they landed on me. Well, look who decided to make an appearance, she sneered. Come to play savior? I felt my blood pressure rising, but I kept my voice steady. I'm just here to comprehend the situation. The situation? Amber mimicked. Is that Mom and Dad are losing everything because the bank is managed by heartless scoundrels, and you're our last hope, Miss Bigshot Tech Executive. The way she uttered it made it clear she believed I didn't merit my success, as if I had simply been fortunate instead of working tirelessly for years. I inhaled deeply, gazed around at all three of them and stated evenly, I'll require time to consider this. I'll inform you of my decision in 3 days. I secured a hotel room downtown. There was no way I was staying in that house with them. That night I telephoned my friend Jessica, who is a real estate attorney, and she provided me with an idea that would change everything. So let me clarify, she stated after I explained everything. They stole your college fund, ignored you for 15 years, and now they want you to rescue them? Pretty much. And you're actually contemplating it. The disbelief in her voice was evident. I sighed. Not for them, but if I don't assist and they end up homeless, will I regret it later? Plus, Dad did just suffer a heart attack. Jessica was silent for a moment. I have an idea. Why not purchase the house outright and place it in your name? Let them reside there, but only if they consent to repay the full amount within 5 years. If they don't, the house remains yours. It was flawless. They would have a place to live, but on my stipulations, and Amber wouldn't receive another chance to deplete them. Draw up the papers, I instructed her. I'll return in 3 days with my response. Those 3 days were peculiar. I took Ethan to the Riverwalk, showed him the Alamo, and engaged in all the tourist activities, but my mind was constantly racing, dwelling on the predicament. A part of me simply wanted to walk away, another part wanted to help but only on my terms, and a small, petty part of me that I'm not particularly proud of wanted to witness the expression on their faces when I presented my conditions. 3 days later, Jessica and I entered my parents' house with a contract. My parents were seated in the living room, looking apprehensive. Amber was also there, scrolling through her phone as if nothing significant was occurring. "I've reached my decision," I stated, sitting down across from them. Jessica placed the contract on the coffee table. "I'll pay off the $200,000 loan. The house will be in my name. You can continue living here but only as tenants. To regain ownership, you must repay the full amount within 5 years. If not, the house remains mine." The silence that ensued was deafening. My mother's face crumpled, and she began weeping. My father appeared to have aged another 10 years in those few seconds. "But Amber," she erupted. "Are you jesting?" she shrieked, jumping to her feet. "You're making Mom and Dad pay to live in their own home? What kind of heartless person does that?" I rose calmly, gathering the contract. "Forget it then. Good luck with the bank." "Wait," my father said quickly, extending a shaky hand. "We accept your terms." Amber stared at him in disbelief. "Dad, you cannot be serious." "We don't have a choice, Amber," he stated quietly. "The bank seizes the house in 2 weeks otherwise." And that was that. Jessica managed all the documentation, and 2 weeks later the house was legally mine. My parents seemed resigned to the new arrangement. I actually felt a slight pang of regret for them, but then I recalled how they had dispatched me without a second thought so Amber could pursue her dreams. I returned to Austin, assuming things would settle down. Boy, was I mistaken. About a month later, I decided to make a surprise visit to inspect the house, my house now. When I pulled up, there was a battered motorcycle in the driveway that I didn't recognize. Odd. I knocked, then used my key when no one answered immediately. The moment I stepped inside, I smelled cannabis, a potent scent, and then I heard laughter from the kitchen. I found my mother cooking, my father at the table, and Amber lounging by the counter. But there was someone new. A guy covered in tattoos with a man bun and a vape pen, seated at my parents' table as if he owned the place. "Megan," my mother looked startled. "We weren't expecting you." "Clearly," I stated, eyeing the guy. "Who is this?" Amber draped herself over the guy. "This is Ryan, my boyfriend. Ryan, this is my sister I told you about." Ryan examined me from head to toe in a manner that made my skin crawl. "So you're the corporate sellout, huh? Nice to finally meet you." I ignored him, turning to my mother. "I didn't consent to allow Amber and her boyfriend to reside here. It's just temporary," my mother pleaded, "until they get back on their feet. Ryan's between jobs right now, and they couldn't afford their apartment. Of course, Amber loses her business, and instead of securing a real job like everyone else, she relocates back with Mom and Dad and brings her useless boyfriend along for the ride." "Not my concern," I stated flatly. "They have 2 weeks to locate somewhere else." Ryan laughed. "You can't expel us. This is your parents' house." "Actually, it's my house now," I corrected him. "And yes, I can." That night, after I had ascended to the guest room to complete some work, Ryan cornered me in the hallway on my way to the bathroom. He reeked of marijuana and body odor. "You think you're so much better than everyone, don't you?" he slurred. "Single mom who got lucky with a cushy job. Bet you slept your way to the top." I attempted to circumvent him, but he obstructed my path. "Get out of my way, dude." "Or what?" He leaned in closer. "You'll call Daddy?" "Oh wait, you can't, because Daddy's downstairs worried about being homeless because of his stuck-up daughter." I stood my ground. "Get out of my face, Ryan, and get out of my house in 2 weeks." He leaned in even closer. "Your child seems pleasant. It would be a shame if he started acquiring undesirable habits from his Uncle Ryan. Perhaps I'll teach him how to smoke his first joint." That was it. I shoved him back so forcefully he stumbled into the wall. "Threaten my son again, and I'll have you arrested so quickly your head will spin." 2 weeks. I returned to my room and immediately telephoned Jessica. "I require eviction papers for my sister and her boyfriend now." The next morning, I headed back to Austin, my blood still boiling from the encounter with that insolent Ryan. I attempted to focus on work, on Ethan, on anything but the situation, but I knew it wasn't over. One day, I was in the midst of a team meeting at work when my assistant handed me a note. "Emergency call from Ethan's school." I rushed over to find my son seated in the principal's office with a split lip and a black eye. The other child appeared worse. "What happened?" I inquired. The principal explained that the other boy had been taunting Ethan about those videos Amber posted months ago, claiming I had stolen my parents' house and was a terrible mother. Ethan told him to be quiet, and when the child wouldn't cease, Ethan punched him. Both boys received a 3-day suspension. In the car, Ethan inquired if he was in trouble. "Fighting isn't the solution," I told him, "but I comprehend why you were upset." That night, I finally looked up Amber online. It turns out she had rebranded herself as some sort of family trauma specialist. She was leveraging our story, a completely distorted version, to market life coaching sessions. She even published an ebook titled Toxic Sisters: Healing from Family Betrayal. She was literally profiting from our family drama. Then my phone rang. It was Ethan's school. "Miss Patterson, this is Mrs. Rodriguez from the front office. Ethan is quite distressed. Apparently, some of his classmates have been showing him some social media posts about your family." I felt nauseous. My hands were trembling as I informed my boss I had a family emergency and hastened to Ethan's school. When I arrived, he was sitting in the counselor's office, his eyes red from weeping. "Mom," he said in this small voice that broke my heart. "Why is Aunt Amber saying those things about us online?" My friend Jake showed me on his phone. I knelt down and hugged him tightly. "Sometimes adults don't handle their problems very well, buddy. What Aunt Amber did was wrong. None of what she's saying is true. She said, 'You're a bad mom.'" He whispered against my shoulder. I pulled back to look him in the eyes. "Do you think I'm a bad mom?" He shook his head immediately. "You're the best mom." "Then that's all that matters." I took Ethan home, immediately called Jessica, and recounted what had transpired. "I want them out. All of them. Now." "Whoa, slow down," she stated. After I explained, she sighed. "I can prepare eviction papers for Amber and Ryan today, but your parents?" "I'm not evicting my parents," I clarified. "Just the leeches living off them." That afternoon, Jessica drove down from Austin to meet me, and together we returned to the house. Ryan answered the door, looking as if he had just awakened. "Even though it was 2 p.m., what do you want now?" he sneered. Jessica stepped forward. "All business. Amber Patterson and Ryan Daniels, I'm serving you with eviction papers. You have 48 hours to vacate the premises or we will proceed with formal eviction through the courts." Ryan laughed. "You can't be serious." Amber appeared behind him, arms crossed. "This is my parents' house. You can't expel me." "Actually, it's my house," I corrected her. "And yes, I can." I also handed her a cease and desist letter Jessica had drafted. "Remove that Facebook post and all other social media posts about me and my son immediately, or face legal action for defamation and unauthorized use of my child's image." Amber stepped toward me, her face contorted with anger. "You think you're so powerful? You and your little bastard are just leeches. A pathetic single mom, dumped by her husband, pretending to be strong, but still just a miserable failure." I saw red. Before I could think, I slapped her hard across the face. The sound reverberated through the room. Amber's eyes widened with shock, her hand going to her cheek. Ryan yelled and started forward, but Jessica stepped between us. "You can insult me all you want," I stated, my voice lethally calm. "But if you ever mention my son again, I'll ensure you regret it for the remainder of your miserable life." My mother was weeping in the corner. My father just looked defeated. Ryan was glaring at me but maintaining his distance. "Sign the papers," Jessica stated, pushing the documents forward. With no other option, they signed. Ryan grabbed a duffel bag and stormed out. Amber spent an hour packing, then paused at the door. "You'll regret this," she hissed. "I'll ensure everyone knows what kind of person you truly are." I shrugged. "Try me." After they departed, I sat down with my parents in the now quiet living room. My mother was still sniffling. "Why did you have to eject her?" she inquired. "She's your sister. Biology doesn't make us family," I stated flatly. "Her actions do, and she crossed a line when she dragged my son into this mess." My father sighed. "We just wanted to help her get back on her feet." "That's always been the issue," I replied. "You're always assisting Amber, even when it harms everyone else." I remained long enough to confirm Ryan and Amber were truly gone, then headed back to Austin. The drive home was a medley of emotions. Anger at Amber, frustration with my parents, concern for Ethan, but also a peculiar sense of relief, as if I had finally asserted myself after all these years. Moving forward, new realities. The subsequent few months after expelling Amber and Ryan were, to say the least, intriguing. Amber fulfilled her threat to malign me online. She didn't merely halt at Facebook. She went utterly viral across Instagram, Twitter, even TikTok. She crafted an entire series titled My Sister the Monster, where she would recount these wildly exaggerated or outright fabricated tales about me. According to Amber, I was a neglectful mother who pawned my child off on nannies, a ruthless corporate climber who would step on anyone to advance. The reason she and Ryan were homeless, they weren't, they relocated with his friend. A manipulative sorceress who defrauded my elderly parents out of their home. My parents are in their early 60s, hardly elderly. Some of my colleagues observed it. A few clients awkwardly mentioned it during calls. Ethan's teacher pulled me aside at pickup one day to inquire if everything was all right at home. I even received a summons to my boss's office because someone had emailed the company about my elder abuse. Thankfully, my boss is perceptive. I explained the situation, presented the legal documents, and she simply rolled her eyes and remarked, "Family drama, huh? Been there." The most challenging aspect was addressing Ethan's inquiries. Children at school had seen some of the videos and were questioning him about it. I attempted to explain in a way a 10-year-old could comprehend. "Your aunt is very upset right now," I told him. Sometimes when people are angry, they say things that aren't true. But why is she so furious with you? He asked, bewildered. How do you elucidate decades of family dysfunction to a child? I simply stated, sometimes people believe life should be fair, and when it isn't they blame others instead of themselves. Surprisingly, that satisfied him. Children are far more perceptive than we give them credit for. As for my parents, they were adapting to the new reality. They were quiet, subdued around me. They didn't discuss Amber, just polite conversation and careful adherence to the terms of our agreement. I didn't leave them homeless or charge them rent, but they understood where the boundaries now lay. Every month I would bring Ethan to visit, not because I had forgiven them, but because I wanted him to have grandparents, even if they weren't exemplary ones. The peculiar thing about social media drama is that it dissipates rather quickly. People grow bored and shift to the next outrage. By month 3, Amber's posts were receiving fewer and fewer interactions. By month 6, she had abandoned them entirely. I discovered through my mother, who quickly regretted mentioning her, that Amber and Ryan had broken up. Apparently, he had cheated on her with some bartender. Karma, I suppose. Last I heard, Amber was employed as a receptionist at a hair salon in Houston, a far cry from the celebrated artist my parents had sacrificed everything for. I would be dishonest if I said I didn't experience a tiny bit of satisfaction about that. But here's where matters become intricate. About 7 months after all this transpired, my father suffered another heart attack, a severe one. I received the call at 3 a.m. from my mother, hysterical, stating the ambulance had just transported him to the hospital. I drove to San Antonio in the middle of the night, leaving Ethan with my neighbor. When I arrived at the hospital, my mother was sitting alone in the waiting room, looking diminutive and terrified. "Where's Amber?" I inquired, sitting down beside her. "I called her," my mother stated quietly. "She said she'd try to come tomorrow if she could get off work." Translation: her own father might be dying, and she couldn't be bothered to appear immediately. Classic Amber. The doctors eventually emerged and informed us Dad had experienced a major heart attack but was stable. He would require bypass surgery, however, and a lengthy recovery period. I remained with my mother until morning, then proceeded to the house to shower and change. While there, I noticed something peculiar. Bills piled up on the kitchen counter, many of them stamped past due or final notice. When I confronted my mother about it, she broke down crying. "We've been trying to make the payments to you, but with your father's medical bills from the first heart attack." She couldn't complete the sentence. I simply stood there observing her weep. The performance was impressive, I'll grant her that, but I wasn't falling for it this time. This was the same woman who absconded with my college fund without a second thought, who never once inquired if I had sufficient food while I was working 3 jobs. "Funny how you only remember I exist when you require something," I stated coldly. My mom looked up, tears still streaming down her face. "Megan, please, we're genuinely struggling." "And where's Amber in all this?" I asked, flipping through the bills. "Why isn't she helping? She's the reason you're in this predicament in the first place." "She's undergoing a difficult period right now," my mother stated weakly. Of course, Amber was always undergoing something, always the victim, always the priority. I spent the morning examining their finances, and it was worse than I had imagined. They were essentially subsisting on Social Security and a meager pension. The medical bills from Dad's initial heart attack had depleted their savings. But then I discovered something intriguing, buried in a stack of mail. A receipt for a $500 birthday gift they had sent Amber just last month. They were skipping payments to me but still indulging her. I slammed the receipt down in front of my mother. "You're struggling so intensely that you can send Amber $500 birthday gifts?" My mother had the decency to appear embarrassed. It was her 30th birthday. We wanted to do something special, you know? "Do you know the last time you remembered my birthday?" "Never. Not once in 15 years. "That's not fair, Megan. We sent you cards." I cut her off. "You never sent a single thing. Not to me, not to your grandson." I telephoned the hospital to check on Dad, then retrieved my purse to depart. My mother followed me to the door. "Please, Megan, what about the payments? We truly cannot afford them right now." I turned to face her. "The agreement stands. I'm not being deceived again. But your father." "My father, who sat silently while you stole my future." "That father." My mom's face hardened slightly. "We gave you life, Megan. We raised you. Don't you believe you owe us something for that?" And there it was, the manipulation, the guilt trip, the same old tactics. "I don't owe you anything," I stated firmly. "You're not homeless. You have a roof over your heads because of me. But I'm not your ATM anymore." I did ultimately engage a home health aide for my father after his surgery, not for them, but because it was the honorable thing to do. I didn't take time off work though. I had squandered enough of my life on them. Amber appeared precisely once during Dad's recovery, remained for approximately 2 hours, took some selfies in the hospital to post online about being a devoted daughter, then departed, claiming she had work obligations. I managed to avoid her completely, which was definitely for the best. Was I too harsh on my family? Every time I began to feel a twinge of guilt, I would recall my mother's face when she told me my college fund was gone. I would recall all those nights I went hungry while Amber was at her luxurious art school, all those Christmases I spent alone, all those years they never once inquired about their grandson. I maintained the payment plan in place. Business is business. They made their choices and I made mine. So last week, something occurred that turned everything upside down. I was in the middle of a major presentation at work when my assistant handed me a note. Emergency call from Ethan's school. I hurried over to find my son seated in the principal's office with a split lip and a black eye. The other child appeared worse. What happened? I inquired. The principal explained that the other boy had been taunting Ethan about those videos Amber posted months ago, claiming I had stolen my parents' house and was a terrible mother. Ethan told him to shut up, and when the child wouldn't cease, Ethan punched him. Both boys received a 3-day suspension. In the car, Ethan inquired if he was in trouble. Fighting isn't the answer, I told him, but I understand why you were upset. That night, I finally searched for Amber online. It turns out she had reinvented herself as some type of family trauma specialist. She was exploiting our story, a completely distorted rendition, to sell life coaching sessions. She even released an ebook titled Toxic Sisters, Healing from Family Betrayal. She was literally capitalizing on our family drama. The following day, my mother texted that Amber wished to speak with me. Against my better judgment, I agreed to meet her at a coffee shop, not to reconcile, but to put an end to this nonsense once and for all. She appeared different. Messy bun, casual attire, no designer items. But her eyes still held that calculating gaze. I've been doing a lot of thinking, she began, about how to monetize our family problems. I retorted. She actually looked embarrassed. You saw that, huh? We argued for a bit, rehashing old wounds. Then she dropped this bombshell. I'm broke, Megan. Completely broke. The coaching venture isn't working. Ryan maxed out my credit cards before he left. I don't know what to do. I laughed in her face. Welcome to real life, Amber. This is what it's like when no one rescues you. This is what I experienced at 19, except I didn't have designer clothes to sell or parents willing to mortgage their house for me. Please, she pleaded, genuine tears in her eyes. I need help. What do you want? I inquired coldly. Money. A job, she stated. Can't you help me secure something at your company? I'll start at the bottom. I couldn't believe it. After everything she had done, she wanted me to assist her. I'll remove all the videos, she added quickly. Delete the TikTok, pull the ebook, everything. I studied her face, searching for the manipulation. There was definitely some present but also genuine desperation. Take everything down first, I stated. Every post, every video, the ebook, everything. Then send me proof. After that, and only after that, we'll discuss job possibilities. But I need money now. Not my concern, I interrupted her. You created this mess. You can live with the consequences for once. The following week, she actually did remove all her content about me and sent screenshots proving it. I was surprised she followed through. I know someone who operates a small marketing firm in Dallas, an entry-level position, barely above minimum wage. I informed him about Amber, the entire unsavory truth, and he agreed to interview her. No promises. She texted me, thank you, but I didn't respond. This wasn't forgiveness, my reasoning was, better she has some income so she doesn't go crawling back to my parents for more money. As for my parents, Dad's out of the hospital, but the bills continue to accumulate. They've started hinting about modifying our agreement again. Not happening. I'm not their ATM. Mom texted me, asking if Ethan could stay with them for a weekend. I shut that down immediately. They barely know him, and I don't trust them not to fill his head with their warped version of our family history. The house is still in my name and it's staying that way. I've made it clear they need to keep making payments or find somewhere else to live. Business is business. Will Amber uphold her end of the bargain? Probably not. She's never faced genuine consequences before. Will my parents ever comprehend how severely they wronged me? Doubtful. They're still the same self-centered individuals, just older and more desperate. But I no longer care. I've expended enough energy on them. My focus is Ethan and my career, the only things that have never disappointed me. So that's it. The narrative of how my sister and parents attempted to exploit me one final time, and how I finally learned to stop rectifying their messes without feeling guilty about it.